Pleased because this event is in partnership with the Victoria University Press, so that's wonderful, and the Wellington Buddhist Centre. And we're also very grateful for funding that we received from the Wellington City Council. So thank you to all of you. And of course I want to particularly welcome Bill Manhire and Jenny Bornholdt, who I'll introduce properly in a moment. They will come and join me. It's not just going to be me just over here. I'll welcome them properly in a moment. Yeah, I'm very, very pleased to be here. So I thought I'll start off by saying a little bit about why I created poetry. So I created poetry at the London Buddhist Centre about 10 years ago now, and I've interviewed people like Anthony Gormley, the sculptor, Colin Toynbee, the novelist, Wendy Cope, the poet, Jory Graham, and so on. The reason why I created Poetry East at the Buddhist Centre was to really sort of emphasise the central significance of imagination. So I was thinking, for instance, when I came on the plane over here, I was coming with my partner and his daughter, Ria, and I actually watched more films than either of them. I think I watched 4 films, which is like disgraceful now. Sorry about that. Most of which were rubbish, frankly. 2 of them were, I wouldn't even mention. But I did watch Christopher Robin. Has anyone seen Christopher Robin? A few hands, yeah. Only 1, 2. It was all right, wasn't it? It was, you wouldn't rave about it, but you were happy enough to watch it. But what struck me about the film was that I thought it was trying to do something much more profound than it managed to do. Because it's about the author of Winnie the Pooh books, and of course in the film Winnie the Pooh comes back, and Piglet and Tigger and so on. Oh, hello, nice to see you. So it was really, what struck me about the film was that the attempt, I thought, and I didn't think they quite got it, but the attempt was somehow to contrast the needs of imagination with the needs of everyday life. So the Christopher Robin character, who's an older man running a business, post-war England, in lots of meetings, in trying to work to support his family, and clearly not enjoying it, post-war England. But Winnie the Pooh comes back and sort of reminds him, or at least I thought that's where we were going with the film, reminds him of a whole world that he'd closed down on, a whole world of imagination. I'm a bit slightly thrown by this bit of machinery in my ass, but a whole world of imagination that I think in the film he'd lost touch with. One of the characters says, I can't remember the last time he smiled, for instance. He's a dutiful, responsible man, trying his best in post-war Britain to bring up a family and give them the best that they could possibly want. But in the attempt to do that, has closed down on play, imagination, valuing all of those things. And well, that's what struck me about it anyway, and that imagination, which is central to our being, really, and that no life is possible without it. It's very easy, isn't it, to close down on it, to put it with those other childhood things that you think you need to leave behind, whereas actually you need to take them with you. And if you don't take them with you, you become less of a human being. What I thought the film didn't manage is something to do with the fact that you do need to have real responsibilities, you do need to earn money, you do need to support your family and so forth, and they're real issues. How do we do that without something in our spirit dying, our imaginative spirit dying? I think that's what the film was trying to get at. As I said, I'm not sure it succeeded, but that's what it was trying to get at. So in Buddhism, that's a central issue in Buddhism, is that our great gift as human beings is our imagination, our capacity to imagine beyond ourselves, to imagine into the lives of other people. It's our faculty that draws us forward, because anyone who writes a poem will know that what they're hoping is not to write down what they think they know. Anyone who thinks they knows what they're going to write a poem, that's not going to work. what you're hoping when you write down a poem is that you discover something more than yourself in the act of writing. You discover something within yourself that goes beyond yourself. And that's really a definition of the imagination, something that is part of yourself, which feels intimate to yourself, but which goes beyond you, so that you, at your very best, can write a poem that you couldn't write. Sometimes you write a poem, if you're very lucky, that you couldn't have written. It's sort of, the imagination has caught you and taken you beyond yourself. Yeah? So that's a crucial matter in the whole of Buddhism, really. Buddhism is more like that than it is like religion, as we usually conceive of it. Yeah? So that's why I started doing Poetry East events here. I need to say it here at the London Buddhist Centre, which is where I usually do them, which is quite a long way away from here. Anyway, that's my little introduction about why we're going to be doing them. And in a moment I'm going to ask Billa and Jen to come and join me. But before we do that, I want to just start with a very short meditation. Meditation is perhaps too grand a term, but just a short moment for me to get over my jet lag and for you to sort of settle into being here. So if you just put your feet flat on the floor, don't worry, you're quite safe. I think, well, safe enough. And if you're willing to, just close your eyes. And then with your eyes closed, all you need to do when you meditate is, first of all, you just bring your attention directly into your body, into how your body feels, which is different than how you think your body feels, or how you like your body to feel. So just notice the weight of your body on the chair. And can you feel your feet on the floor? You don't need to think about your feet on the floor, you just need to notice the actual sensation. So you're trying to step out of your mind that is thinking and worrying and planning into something much more direct and immediate, the direct sensations of your body. And then see if you can just gather your awareness around your breath. So your breath is, your body is breathing. You don't need to try to breathe. Your body does that quite naturally. And just see if you can tune into your breathing body. So it's like gathering your mind around the direct sensations of breathing. And then see if you can gradually extend your awareness, so around the breath, so that you feel more and more of your body. And you're trying to feel your body sense just as it is, without judging it, without thinking about it even. Just see if you can feel it, including anything uncomfortable. And then just come back to the weight of your body on the chair, the sensations of your feet on the floor. Good. Okay, so just to very briefly introduce Bill Manhire and Jenny Bornholdt to you. I hope that they're both very well known to you. I hope that their work is very well known to you. I've been reading both of them for the last month or so, and it's been I really can say with all honesty, and sometimes it's not easy to say this, I've really, really enjoyed it. It's just been a real pleasure getting to know both Bill and Jenny through reading their poems. The two qualities that strike me about both of them, and I want to be exploring some of these qualities this evening, is that both of them, I think, express a lot of love. It's funny to bring that word in so early on, isn't it? It's a rather important word, easily misused and so on, but that's what we all want. We all need to be loved. We all need to love others. And both of their poems, I think, express that very strongly. A sense of love, but coupled with a sense of humour. One of the things you quite often find with contemporary poetry is that nobody's willing to have a laugh. Everyone's terribly keen to be taken seriously, and that can be a bit portentous and a bit heavy-going. Sometimes, of course, it's not like that, but it can be. But both Bill and Jenny's work, you have this lovely, in my experience, a sort of compassionate humour that's very much aware of the dark side of life. There's no sentimentality in either of them. There's no shirking those issues, but there seems with both of them, I found, and we'll explore this later, a kind of tactfulness about that, and an unwillingness to interfere, a desire to tell a joke when they can, and also to love the world and to love people that are in their lives. So, ladies and gentlemen, Bill Manhire and Jenny Bornholdt. So are you all plugged in?
I think so. Is it, do I have to turn anything on, or am I?
Oop. I think you have to press a button on the top. I think you're on there.
I think I'm on. Yep.
You have to press a button on the top. That's it. That's it. There you go. You are now being broadcast to the nation.
Are you sure?
Is that it? Can you hear us, both of us? Sound check.
Sorry, just 1 second.
Oop.
My apologies.
That's all right.
I think I might have tripped over my wire.
Yeah, well,
Sorry.
you need to be a bit closer.
All good?
Yeah. Okay.
But like being a sort of informer and a
Yeah.
bus or something.
Yeah, like being on the Starship Enterprise with these ones. Okay, so what I've done is I've asked both Jenny and Bill to start off by reading a poem that has influenced their own work. It's always important to, poetry is very much a conversation. It's not just something you sit down in your room and read and write. Writing poetry needs to come out of reading poetry. At the moment, it seems clear that there are more people writing poetry than reading it. So, which is like really not a good sales thing. So we need, one of the things I mostly wanted to emphasise is people need to read poetry. And what I suggest you do this evening, if you haven't got Bill's and Jenny's books, to buy them this evening and go home and read them. Anyway, so let's start with Bill. You're going to read your choice and then perhaps read it and then say why you've chosen it.
Okay. It's not really a poem that I think I've been influenced by, but it's the first grown-up poem that I remember coming close to, indeed when I was at primary school. It's by Matthew Arnold, the Victorian poet, and it's called Requiescat. Strew on her roses, roses, and never a spray of you. In quiet she reposes, would that I did too. Her mirth the world required, she bathed it in smiles of glee, but her heart was tired, tired, and now they let her be. Her life was turning, turning in mazes of heat and sound, but for peace her soul was yearning, and now peace laps her round, her cabined ample spirit fluttered and failed for breath. Tonight it doth inherit the vasty hall of death. Which, I mean, I remember what I read it from a little anthology called The Golden Treasury, Paul Graves' Golden Treasury. And once upon a time, every household in the English-speaking world had one of these. And it was my mother's favourite poem, and I never quite understood why. I mean, it scared me, you know, it gave me the heebie-jeebies, this poem. It seems to be full of cold marble, even though there's no, I don't think the word cold or the word marble is in the poem. But she was having a difficult life as someone who'd come out to New Zealand and became a publican's wife and had to help run a pub. And so this is one of those poems in which someone is yearning for the release and the peacefulness of death. And so I think I knew this poem almost by heart at about the age of 11. And every so often she'd say, "Do you like that Matthew Arnold poem?" Requiescat. And yeah, I mean, you know, Emily Dickinson was once asked how to define poetry or what she thought was a poem, and she said, if I read something and it takes the top of my head off, I know that is poetry. If I read something and it makes me feel so cold, no fire can ever warm me, I know that is poetry. Is there any other way? And so on. And this poem makes me feel so cold, no fire can ever warm me. And so there's a bit of grim stuff underneath the happy jokery, you know.
That's great.
But yeah, so that was the first big poem I met.
And how old were you when that?
I think when I first met it, I would have been 10 or 11, but I think I kept meeting it at high school and so on. But never met it beyond this book, really.
Excuse me, I think you have to give you this microphone.
Oh, okay.
You're not picking up.
Right. Okay.
Okay, you're doubly mic'd.
I'm doubling mine. I'm done.
So let's turn to you then, Jen, your poetry choice.
Okay, well, I've chosen, like Will, it's not a poem that I wouldn't say it influenced me, but it's the first kind of real poem that I remember coming across. And I must have been at high school, maybe 13 or 14. And it's a poem by Hone Tufare, and it's No Ordinary Sun. I'll read it. No ordinary sun. Tree, let your arms fall. Raise them not sharply in supplication to the bright, enhaloed cloud. Let your arms lack toughness and resilience, for this is no mere axe to blunt, nor fire to smother. Your sap shall not rise again to the moon's pull. No more incline a deferential head to the wind's talk, or stir to the tickle of coursing rain. Your former shagginess shall not be wreathed with the delightful flight of birds, nor shield nor cool the ardour of unheeding lovers from the monstrous sun. Tree, let your naked arms fall, nor extend vain entreaties to the radiant ball. This is no gallant monsoon's flash, no dashing trade wind's blast. The fading green of your magic emanations shall not make pure again these polluted skies, for this is no ordinary sun. O tree, in the shadowless mountains, the white plains and the drab sea floor, your end at last is written. I just thought that was an amazing poem. I mean, it's about nuclear testing and the threat of nuclear war. I was brought up an Anglican, and I think probably part of what attracted me to this is the kind of almost biblical sort of language. You know, that tree, let your arms fall, raise them not sharply in supplication. So it was something I kind of recognised the kind of that seriousness and sort of prayerful tone. So I think it probably seemed to me like a kind of secular prayer, which I found a very appealing thing, as well as it never mentions what the No Ordinary Son is. So it says a lot of what it isn't, and I think that leads to the kind of the sense of destructiveness or seriousness and just the destructiveness of what could come. It had a big sort of impact on me, and I've always remembered it.
Thank you both of you. So I want to start sort of moving to you now, talk a bit about your background. I always want to ask my guests about their childhood, which makes me sound like a psychoanalyst. But I thought we'd start with you, Bill, about your. We were talking earlier. You were talking about being brought up in pubs. I thought you might just tell us a bit about your life and how the world you came into. I'm slightly caught up with my wife.
Well, when I was born, I immediately went home to the Southland Hotel in Invercargill, where my father was the first publican in a hotel run by the Invercargill Licensing Trust, which set up after the Second World War. And then at about the age of 2, we moved out to a little place called Wallistown, which was just outside the trust boundary, and did a tremendous amount of after hours, because all the Invercargill drinkers needed to drink at other than legal times. And there's a story which I've never checked the truth of, too good to check, as they say, about 3 of our customers being in the court news one day. And I think the Southland papers still thrive on the court news, as the Otago Daily Times does, non-stop court news. And one of them was drunk in charge of a motor vehicle heading from this hotel in Wallistown back into Invercargill. One was drunk in charge of a bicycle, and one was drunk in charge of a horse and cart. And so I like to imagine a strange procession of genial drunks who didn't run anyone over, wending their way home. So there was always this sort of non-stop party going on, which, as Matthew Arnold points out, might have exhausted my mother, who was in fact a Scottish war bride. So my father was in the Navy during the war. He went to Edinburgh. He met my mother, who at that stage was a high school teacher in a sort of Miss Jean Brodie Edinburgh school. But she had grown up in a very poor family. Her father was a railway signalman, and he had a little signal box all of his own on the King's Cross Edinburgh railway line, and sent the trains in different directions. And so she got various scholarships, went to university, did a science degree, became a high school teacher, then met this sailor during the Second World War, and travelled out to New Zealand on a boat full of war brides, which strikes me as quite extraordinary, really. There's boats full of women being shipped to New Zealand towards marriage or just after marriage, and found herself in Invercargill, the southernmost city in the world, last lamppost in the world, said Rudyard Kipling, helping the glamorous naval officer who turned into a publican, who drank a lot, and she was the publican's wife and had to manage a sort of large professional household, really. So yeah, and I was born into that.
It's incredible to imagine those boats, isn't it? So let's. I've asked you to read The English Teacher because I was very struck by that. It's a beautiful poem about your mother, and for you, unusually, a seemingly more autobiographical poem than any of yours.
Yeah, it's fairly accurate.
Yeah.
I think. My mother had occasionally mentioned a Polish soldier that she obviously rather fancied during the war, and you can hear me in this poem. I've decided I'll write a poem about this relationship, and you can hear me asking her to say a bit more so that I can put it in the poem. So, The English Teacher. My mother was teaching Polish soldiers. Each day at 4 o'clock they marched down to the school. This was in Scotland, Preston Pans, near Edinburgh. Salt pans, says my mother. The monks would make salt in the pans. They needed the language for the invasion of Europe. Also, they wanted to meet people. Everyone likes to get along socially. There was a dashing sergeant. He had only the one word of English at the end of each class. He clicked his heels, opened a silver case and said, "Cigarette?" But my mother didn't smoke. She stood at the blackboard cleaning off phrases. Just words, she says, only expressions. I am a soldier. I am your friend. My mother was in her late 20s. I didn't know your dad then. He was in this is me mythologizing my father into a big kind of Greek hero or something. He was in San Francisco in a nightclub called the Lion's Den. Or he was waking at dawn in the state of Nevada on a train crossing America. While among the Poles there was one, a sad man who stood out from the bunch. The Russians had locked him away back when they were still helping Hitler. He had been a carpenter, but his wife and children, they might be dead, might be anywhere. He might never know where they were. The long trains laboured south with their troops and ammunition, 2 engines in front and 1 at the back. The soldier made a wooden plaque and left it with my mother, also a thank you letter. Give me more detail, I say, you know, to put in the poem. But what happened to the plaque, my mother can't remember. It was lovely, she says. All she recalls is the carpenter's sadness. The letter she carried all the way to New Zealand, till somewhere in the South Island, shifting from place to place, packing or unpacking. Somehow she lost it. Someone had written it out for him. Maybe one of the officers. Yours faithfully, it said, or yours sincerely. And every last word was set down correctly. So, she must have been a good teacher.
That's lovely, thank you very much. Thank you. And then, whilst we're talking about parents, I wanted to talk a bit about your parents. Because one of the things that's striking reading, you know, Selected and your work is how much of it is haunted by your father. I'm particularly thinking of The Rocky Shore. If you haven't, if everyone here hasn't got a copy of The Rocky Shore, make sure you get a copy. It's very unusual to read a poem where you laugh out loud and have tears in your eyes in the same poem. And I like to have both. So anyway, just have a bit of an advert about that. But you know, your father very much haunts the poems. I thought you might talk a bit about your parents. It's always good to sort of bring them in, isn't it? It's so important. One wouldn't exist without them, after all.
They're quite important.
Yeah.
So I was, my father was a lawyer, and my mother was a nurse. She's here, in fact, but I won't make her stand up and fine, stay. You're fine, Nettie. I grew up in Lower Hutt. I mean, that's where I spent most of my, all of my childhood, actually. Very happily. I sort of had this idyllic early childhood, I think. It was suburban, and we had really close friends as neighbours, sort of next door, over the road. I feel like it's sort of one of those storybook childhoods, really. You know, good friends next door, over the road, gang of kids. We just sort of roamed around extremely happily for years of our lives. Yeah, I don't really know what more to say. Yeah, my father died about 17 years ago, which I sort of can't quite believe it was that long ago, really. Yeah, he was a terrific person. He was very complicated, as well as he was lovely and complicated. How's that?
I remember he bought about 100 copies of your first book.
Yeah, I'd have to
Which
say,
is lovely.
it is lovely. Since he died, I'm afraid sales have plummeted. Although my mother's still very loyal, so you know. Yeah, no, he was. I think he was tremendously proud of all of us, even though he was a lawyer, and I remember he was terrifically. He must have been terribly worried when I said, you know, that I wanted to be a poet. I mean, what a ludicrous sort of idea.
It was quite worrying, I thought.
It was quite worrying,
for a
yeah.
parent,
I must have been, actually. But he was, I mean, both my parents actually were always incredibly supportive and backing of that decision. Never said, "Oh, do you really think so?" You know, possibly it was tempered by the fact that I had trained as a journalist sort of beforehand, so there was a bit of a safety net there. But you know, I thought actually for people who came from families where people didn't, or not that I'm aware of, no one did that kind of thing. It was very brave of them both. Yeah.
So what I've been doing as well, I didn't mention this before, is I've been asking, selecting my own from Bill's and Jen's poetry that I'd like them to read. So I want one of the poems I'd like you to read would read a poem about a horse. I mean, partly I chose this poem because it's just completely charming, but also unusually for you, it's less autobiographical, and at least once strict, it's slightly difficult to take it autobiographically.
Yeah, no, it isn't autobiographical, but then there are things in there that, I mean, the silly stuff about the house, I mean, you know, those sorts of things are, but no, that the sort of, the tone of it isn't, yeah.
I certainly recognise the builder from other poems.
Okay, so it's a bit long, but you'll, this is a poem about a horse. Actually, I really like what you said in the introduction about, you know, poetry being something that might start with something concrete or something about yourself, and then suddenly it just surprises you and takes you somewhere sort of completely different that you had no idea that's where it was going, and that's exactly the description of what happened with this poem. And I was thinking, I can't even tell you why it started with a horse. I've just got no idea. I mean, I'm not even a horsey person, but anyway, poem about a horse. This poem could be about your horse. This horse here, or a horse you remember. Either one will be fine, and either way you will need to include some other animal to keep the horse company. This could be your friend's dog, your friend from childhood who spent a lot of time in trees and climbed down once with you not noticing, still reading in the tree hut. Or your sister's guinea pigs, again from childhood, eating up the back lawn. At a stretch, it could be the chocolate reindeer you bought and carried around in your pocket all day, though that's not much company for a horse. Yaks could be good. The yaks you heard about from the nice young man who sold you your phone, the global roaming one. His uncle was a yak farmer who lived next door to an Amish community. In exchange for wool, they helped him build his house, big, so the yaks could come inside. Tables and chairs were nailed to the floor so the animals wouldn't knock them over as they wandered about the kitchen. Yes, a yak could be good. Once, when I was global roaming, high above the earth, trembling towards home, the lights below were soft and woolly, just like a yak, I thought. So your horse might like a yak for company. I myself would like that, though a yak certainly wouldn't fit inside our house, not the way it is at present. We could always get a tradesman to widen the doorways and fix the furniture, but our record with tradesmen is hardly spectacular. We attract the kind of man who is very nice, but whose personal circumstances, surfing and a new fiancée, for instance, mean he starts a job but never finishes. This accounts for things like the very long skirting board, which sticks up and out from behind our sofa like a piece of wood you might tie an old pillowcase to prevent other people driving into it as you deliver it to the tip. We wouldn't invite that particular tradesman back to yak-proof the house. Your horse might prefer a hare or quail. Both appear at dusk, so you could introduce them then. They also like it after a thunderstorm, the sort that comes quickly out of nowhere, so you're stuck barbecuing rain. Once you've settled on an animal, your horse might need a drink, and by then, of course, it could be evening, the time of day when light flees for safety in the hills. The poem can wait. It's time now to stable your horse. If it's the horse that's here, that's an easy matter. But if it's the horse you've remembered, you'll need to also remember the stable and the colour of the girl's shoes as she took the horse inside last night to settle. What was on her mind as she led the horse, clip-clop, through the stable door? Was it the boy with the voice like a river? Or was it the river with a boat that would take her to the home of the man who, for heaven's sake, was old enough to be her father? You'll need to think about that. And her shoes? Were they her sister's or her brother's? The colour of the sky needs to be remembered, the state of the moon, and which bird made a racket. And then, most importantly, you'll need to forget that sound deep inside your ear, which is the sound of the world unravelling itself.
Thank you very much. A lovely poem, isn't it? I think the thing I was feeling about that poem is that it's a pure charm, isn't it? One of the things that I think poetry's for is to just disappear from the world. You know, that we all of us have so many sort of duties and responsibilities, and life can easily feel weighed down by them. And we want to disappear. We want to get away, but come back refreshed. You come back, refreshed. And I thought it was a very good example of that. The horse doesn't exist, and it's clear in the poem that the horse doesn't exist. It's purely created, as it were, out of nothing. You know, it's not saying it's about your horse. It's not. Yet with that, you know, horse that doesn't exist, we have, you know, roaming. We have that wonderful tradesman. That, you know that tradesman, don't you? That never finishes anything. So,
well, we just have them all the time.
So I thought it was a really good example of how a poem can, if it's good enough, can sort of take you out of life, give you a good time in the best sense, and then bring you back a bit more, but a bit happier and a bit enriched for that meeting. That's one of the reasons I chose it anyway. I don't know whether that's what you were thinking about it.
I don't know that it matters. It's very nice that you took that from. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So let's before we move on, I want to ask you, Bill, to read The Sixth Son. Originally I wanted you to read this because I thought it was a wonderful poem about your father, but you'll say more about this.
Yeah, it's entirely made up. You don't know whether everyone's sick in this poem actually, but I think I wrote it at a time when I decided to write a whole lot of poems, but only managed 2, in which I imagined for myself a childhood somewhere else, other than a pub in Southland. And so I wrote a poem called My Childhood in Ireland.
Oh yes.
Very disturbed young man, and I wrote My Childhood in Russia. A really disturbed young man. And I started Iceland and Spain, but sort of gave up. But The Sixth Son is sort of part of that world. The Sixth Son. Because a tree was touching a cloud, I hid under my bed. My brother hid under the covers. Then my mother came in. She hid inside her head. My father was out in the great world with his axe. Would he attack the house this time, or just the tree? Come out at once, he called, and come out singly. When I was little, he sat me on his knee. He read to me. He read to me. And actually, I don't think my father ever read me anything. So it can't be him, can it?
It's a good job you mentioned about your childhood in Ireland, because at one point I was going to ask you about your childhood in Ireland and how you got to Ireland. I mean, what struck me about the poem is, well, which I see in your poems more and more, is this sort of love, this humour, and humour touching something that doesn't want to be humorous, if you see what I mean. This kind of tension created by the need to tell a story, to enjoy things, to find things funny, but also something, I think increasingly as the poems go on, something coming into the poems that doesn't want to do that. Like life, like the difficulties of life. I even wondered if it was influenced by Stevie Smith. It slightly reminds me.
Oh yes, I love Stevie Smith.
Right,
It's got that same sort of slightly manic, assertive rhyming thing going.
Yes, that's right.
And it sounds like it might be a nonsense poem, and yet it's about this terrible, terrible situation.
Yes, that's right.
And she does quite a lot of that.
And there's that poem, I can't remember the title of it, it's finished with "Oh, my bride, my bride."
Oh, that's that one called "I Remember."
Oh, that's
I
right.
think I almost know by heart. Can I?
Yeah.
See? It's basically a poem, the sort of thing we don't approve of now, in which an old man is remembering his young bride who has died. And it's set just a little bit after the Second World War.
Mm.
I'll get some things wrong, but it goes something like, "It was my bridal night, I remember. An old man of 73, I lay with my young bride in my arms, a girl with TB. It was wartime, and overhead the Germans were making a particularly heavy raid on Hampstead." Something funny about, perversely, our bombers had chosen that particular moment to head out to Germany. "Harry, do they ever collide? I do not think it has ever happened. Oh, my bride, my bride." And you know, that's a lonely elderly widower remembering that particular bridal night. It's great, isn't it?
Oh,
but it's so comic. I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard a recording of her reading that poem aloud, and when the remembered bride says, "Harry, do they ever collide?" the audience roars with laughter, and then the rest of it is read, and they all go, "Oh."
Yeah.
And I quite like poems
Yeah.
that do that sort of
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
that slightly wrong foot the reader, but in a way that the reader, one hopes, will find satisfying.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, it's I was really struck with that. He read to me, which seemed suddenly tragic. And like any good poem, you don't quite know why. It's something to do with the repetition, which makes it sort of desperate, especially after what's gone before.
Yeah. I just agree.
Okay, good. It's always nice to be agreed with. So I wanted to move on from your background to when you started writing. So I thought we'd sort of start this section, let me keep an eye on time, before, with you reading this wonderful poem of yours called "Being a Poet," which I liked very much, and I find other people have liked it as well. That's what I realised. So that was nice to find out.
Oh, good.
That other people liked it. So perhaps let's start with that.
Okay, being a poet. Actually, I should say that Marion in this poem is Bill's wife, Marion. So there you go. Being a poet. Yesterday I bought a blender, blue, from Briscoe's, just like Marion's. Today we're dealing with the big issues like how the world began and can we have Fruit Loops for breakfast? Friends ask what I'm reading. By the bed is Go Dog, Go. We looked at it this morning just before our fight over the nature of Weet-Bix. But it's soggy every morning, I hear myself say. That's just what Weet-Bix does. That's just its way.
Like that. So much know that feeling. So let's just start with you, Jen, to say a little bit about when did you start writing? What got you to write? How did you start writing?
I think reading got me to write. I read a lot of novels when I was younger, and then my parents would give me those, what were they called? They were sort of collections of verses or voices. There was a series of books, voices, you know, those, voices. So there was always sort of poetry more in the background, but I think it really probably was reading. And I started writing a few poems towards when I was sort of late teens, and as I said earlier, I trained as a journalist and then decided, I think because I'd always wanted to do something with writing, but you know, you don't know, I mean, when you're 16 or 17, you've got no idea what it's possible to do, really. You know, so that seemed like a good word writing thing. So I did that for a few years, and then I decided that I wanted to go to university and read more, basically. So I did an English literature degree, and as part of that degree, I did what was in Bill's course called Original Composition. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was now called creative writing, don't it?
Yes. Yeah. And I applied for that course, and I only applied for it. But I mean, I'd written a few poems, but a friend of mine who was in one of my English courses said, "There's this course called Original Composition. Why don't we apply for it?" And so we did. I mean, I think we sat down and wrote poems frantically, because you had to put in a folio, you know. And I had some poems, you know, but I'd never showed anybody or talked at all about it, probably just to this one friend. And we both got the number of poems we had to have. I can't remember, maybe it was 8 or 9 or something. You know, nervously took them in. I know he can't remember either. But then, and we both got in. You know, we went up. And I think actually, if she hadn't suggested this, I don't know that I would have had the kind of nerve to do it myself. But it was a wonderful thing. And so actually, it was. And Bill's course at that stage was, I think there were 12 of us, and there was one course, and there were novelists, and you know, people were writing short stories and poems and plays. It was a real mix of people. It was some people like Elizabeth Knox, who's